Joining us now is the mayor of the city of Pontiac, Mayor Deirdre Waterman. And Mayor Waterman, before we get going, I understand you had a big celebration yesterday. It was your birthday. Tyler and I were going to sing happy birthday to you, but it wouldn't be. We don't want to lose all the audience right before you're right before we have you. But happy birthday, Mayor.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful sunny day and a good day in Pontiac. So thank you for that.
Well, good to have you. Complicated times. I thought it was complicated enough, and life just got more complicated here in our county, in the city of Pontiac, and our country after the terrible incident that we all witnessed on television and on YouTube and elsewhere with the police killing of George Floyd and then the subsequent reaction by communities across the country. I just got off the phone with Chief Mike Patton of the West Bloomfield Police Department, and he just said he was mad, and I guess, if another law enforcement official says that, I guess it's understanding why all the rest of the country is mad today as well.
Yes.
You have any thoughts?
A lot of thoughts, a lot of things. And this has, over the week, I guess that we've been witness as a nation to these very unfortunate events in Minneapolis and what has ensued since then. And the original event has excited such outrage and such discontent in this population, and has sparked other kinds of activities. And now it's kind of morphed into something different. It's morphed into also a cultural explosion of also people who have joined in and that they are also discontent and unhappy and outraged by this inciting incident. But now there's all these other people who have joined in who are sympathetic to that, but also seeing that they have reasons to have unrest and to have anger and fear about the directions that certain cultural changes are happening in our country, and they're all kind of coming together. Some in explosive ways, which we don't condone, of course, because we want this to happen in a dialogue that we hope that can be constructive. But there are destructive elements here, and while we don't condone that, I too, as an African American, as a person of a community of culture, of diversity, want to see constructive change. And it's gone on for a long time. And I guess this was the spark that ignited a flame that's happening as we are also trying to confront a pandemic and other cultural and social economic changes that are affecting every community and every citizen in this country. So this is a global phenomenon as well.
It seems to me, and I really want your perspective because what your thoughts as an African American and a mayor, to me, are very helpful. But it seems to me that we are, as our country goes through more of these events with police officers interacting and in this case killing an African American that everyone can see on television didn't deserve that, and seeing other officers not stepping in to stop that activity,
Yes.
very painful to watch. But it also seems that, and I can understand, and I'm not an African American, but I'm mad, and I can understand how there would be a cumulative impact. It seems we keep having these incidents, we see them, and are people? Do you think people are getting frustrated that they're just it isn't getting any better?
Very obviously frustrated. I mean, I think that's the sense that you feel. It's impossible to see that for most people if you have a human sense, not have a visceral reaction to this. And for those people who have been aware of this, this has been 400 years. George Floyd is yet the latest, but it's been 400 years for so many people who have been confronted with this, and it has affected every black man and black family in this country. And so for people who are now waking up and to this latest incident, and nobody can see that without reacting to it and have a human sense. But for those, it's like this is yet another incident, yet another city that's traumatized, yet another family that's broken apart, yet another community that is torn apart at the seams. When does it stop? When does it stop? When do we make this change? And it is something that we have to address as a country. And there are those who are now in the streets saying, hey, look, it's gone too long. And we're not going to step down until it is addressed.
Well,
It's
and
not.
it feels good to me to see that it's not just African Americans protesting; it's people of all races. We saw,
It is.
African Americans, we saw white people, we saw Asians. I mean, it was a real mixed bag at what I call the peaceful protests. And just on that,
Yes.
very briefly, I don't think that Dr. King would have approved of the activities that were going on at that Target store. I mean, we all know that, and there's no reason to dwell on that. I see you shaking your head, but is that frustrate you that that's still going on too?
It's frustrating, but it's in a sense, we, as I said, can't condone it, because what's destructive doesn't stop another incident from happening. You know, all that does is to, I guess, for the people who feel that they have not been heard, they feel that this is the way that they have to be heard. So that's the fault of a culture that has not given these people a chance to be heard and for a chance to see that there are definitive changes that are resulting from their voices. And so can't condone it, but certainly feel that same anger and frustration.
Mayor Waterman, the mayor of the city of Pontiac, a disruption in Grand Rapids, significant protests in Flint, certainly a lot of activity in Detroit. I haven't seen any news reports. I was away on Sunday, but I haven't seen any news reports of any real problems, quote unquote problems, in Pontiac. Can you give us an update of what's been going on in Pontiac?
Not problems, and I feel for my mayors who've had to deal with those kind of disruptive elements in their communities. But we did have what was started as a Pentecostal service celebration. And because of the recent events, which also needed to have voice, the pastors who organized that event said, well, let's turn this into a unity rally also, so we and Pontiac can also voice our concern and support for what we see is happening nationally. And so they came to me and asked me if we could do that on the steps of City Hall, and to give it that kind of expression for representing this community. So we did. And it was peaceful, it was organized, it was inspirational, it was joyful. It was also an expression of grief and mourning for what has happened, and also a sense of concern that we too feel the sense of outrage and the sense of frustration, but also the sense of we've got to find ways to stare this in the face, to speak in its ugly name. It's racism. And this country has to deal with it. And we have to find changes. And we find that there are also people who have identified with this now. And as you say, a lot of the protesters there, not just Black families, they are families they're all kinds of people, young people who are disaffected, who can't get jobs, who see the economy changing, people who are disaffected with government, with the way they are not felt that they're being told constructive and truthful solutions by government now. They see what's happening. So it kind of sparked, as I said, this incident has now sparked this whole cultural phenomenon where people are coming out and saying, we don't like the way that these issues that need to be handled with definitive ways that we can feel satisfaction and feel that we're being heard and feeling that it's not, these same repetitive errors are being forced into I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all
Uh,
right. I just hope it's not an important call from
yes.
the police department or anything. But Mayor,
Well,
if you got just one more second, and then we'll let you go. But I think you said it really well. I mean, it's just like a piling on, and that's why it continues to get worse. And then add all of those stacks you just talked about, Mayor Deirdre Waterman of the city of Pontiac, the COVID-19, and the fact that we've been isolated, and you add one more thing. You just add that on top. Do you think
you're right.
that that's even been a contributing factor to the temperature of this whole situation?
Oh, absolutely. It's a frustration. The fact that we don't know what's normal anymore. There's so much uncertainty in the world. So many people who don't know whether they're going to get their jobs back. Whole industries now that are being affected by this. municipalities, all the mayors who are now on the ground trying to handle these things are not knowing how we're going to be affected by that for how long, or how we go back to now servicing our population, how we even bring them back to our city buildings again. So there's a lot of discontent, and it's time now to make sure that we have people who can be voices of constructive leadership, and bring back that, for us, for mayors who are trying to handle this on the ground every day. It's so important that we be able to bring back leadership that people can trust again,
All right, Mayor, I'm
because
going to
we
put you. I'm
often
going to
look
put you
at
on the spot with one final question. You don't have to answer this one if you don't want to. You don't have to answer any of them, but this one in particular. Mayor of Minneapolis. Good job, bad job, no comment, other comment. What do you think?
I want to say let me say this.
Okay.
In positions of leadership, there's a lot of intervening forces, and it's all local. But I would say this: one of the things I would try to emphasize, in my community too, is that in the face of some rogue officers who obviously, were deadly wrong, and there was no justice, and that's why this arrest has been served. But one of the things that should come out of this, hopefully, is right now, to talk to the elements in your police department and say, uh, from on high, and this has to come from the highest, echelons of authority, this will not happen in this community again. And these are the changes we're going to make to make sure, and we can assure people there is a change. If people think there is no change and you're just placating them until the protests stop, then that doesn't solve the problem. But in my community, for example, I've had that conversation face to face with the sheriff, who provides the safety and security for this community. I've had that conversation, and I said, I will support you. I'm happy for what you have done for decreasing the level of violence in our community, and I will support you. And I know I will not fall for people who want to provoke you. But I do expect you to handle this with justice and fairness to all. And if that doesn't happen, then you will be accountable for that. All right. And that is very clear. And so I would like to think that that is understood in our community. If there was a rogue officer or somebody that didn't control, that they would be accountable for that and take care of that. But I think we've had that understanding, and so in those communities where you have that, those aren't communities that have been the ones that have, suffered these kinds of, terrible, incidents that just keep to be recurring. And so it's time now to address this. Not only this, but all the other facets of racism that have festered in our community,
Mhm.
because it's not just racism; it's now economic, problems, and those are the things that, people want to have real solutions for. And it's time now to really address that in a forthright way, in ways where we can do that across the table now, so people don't have to throw, bricks through windows in order to think that they can get somebody to pay attention
Mayor
to what
Waterman,
their
thank you
code is.
so much. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's a difficult time to have this conversation, but very important. And we'll continue to have
Yes.
dialogue. And again, I look forward to meeting you in person when conditions arise, and we can do that. Thank you for being with us today.
Anytime. Thank you
And
for having me.
best to everyone in Pontiac. And thank you for joining us. She is the mayor of the city of Pontiac, Mayor Deirdre Waterman.